Morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is Lillian DeFries with Alive in Healthcare, and today I want to talk to you about mental health and even more so about mental fitness. But let's start with mental health. Um, so, the goal here today is really to give you an overview of my perspective on mental health. And then we will be doing a very special feature on Wednesday, the 31st of May, as you can see on the banner that's going across here. We'll be doing a mental fitness webinar live on May 31st at 1 to 3 Eastern Time. It's a 2-hour webinar. I'd love for you to bring some questions and really learn. I'm going to send out some information about doing an assessment before we start that webinar, and then we'll go deep into the science behind it. So really the science, the simplicity, the solution. But I wanted to talk to you today because it is Mental Health Month. And there's a little bit of me that goes, why do we have to focus on it in a month? And it's just like New Year's resolutions. And it's just like, setting goals in our new year. Those kinds of things to me they're great, but they're not just that one-time thing. And what I've noticed a lot this month is all the postings around mental health awareness, that you're not alone, that there's support, which is great. It's important because anytime we want to change something, we need to be made aware of something. The part that really is more important than just awareness is constantly providing tools that will help you through these problems. Because what my experience has been from a lot of my clients has been they can call the EAP, Employee Assistance Program, they can call support lines, and they get a temporary support, but they don't get ongoing support. And it's difficult to find the support that's first of all consistent, long term, and really tailored to the individual, instead of making it like a concrete program or a certain way of doing something. So I really work very closely. I've got to tell you, I don't think there is one client that, no, there may be a couple that are really on, the perfect place in their life right now where everything is perfect and everything, they don't feel any stressors, where they have trouble coping with something. And I'll be the first one to include myself in that. So I really, want to normalize this in a certain way that everybody's going through this. But on the other hand, I want to say it's not normal, right? It's not okay to be going through these things and not getting the support we need. So on Wednesday, the 31st, I will have direct signs and tools that work. All right. Today, I want to cover a little bit about my perspective on it. And let's just talk about what mental health is. So, according to the World Health Organization, mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Well, how many of us are mentally healthy when you think about it? Are you in a place where you are realizing your abilities? Sometimes we are pushing ourselves to the abilities we think we can do, but we're not able to. Like it's just putting us over the edge. Sometimes, with the normal stresses of life, well, if I lived on a beach and, ate healthy every day and walked every day and didn't have work responsibilities, that might be a normal day for me where I don't put myself in a situation of stressors. And stressors are good. I mean, it's important to know I've got to get up in the morning to go to work. I mean, some stressors are important. However, where are we really coping with the normal stresses of life? And can we work productively and fruitfully? Well, I know for myself, yeah, I'm productive and I'm fruitful. And there are moments when I'm not. And there are moments when I need to take care of myself. And I know how to look after myself. I know how to handle those moments. And I still need the support from others. I work with my own coach. I have my own, healthcare team that works with me so that I can be in that place of being able to do things. But we're never really in the perfect zone, are we? Right? When I say perfect, I mean like for a long term, right? Maybe temporary. And making contribution to our community. Yes, one of the things that I know is when we're struggling, the first thing we can do is service somebody else, be of service to someone else, and it takes us out of that pain, out of that place of feeling like we're struggling. All of those things are balancing. We're never in perfect balance, but how do we maintain that or remain sustainable in the best way we can be? So those are things that I address with my clients. So let's take a look a little bit more about, the mental health situation. The fact that nurses are experiencing extremely high levels of depression, trauma, stress, and suicidal thoughts, and yet don't feel comfortable disclosing potentially these issues to their employers is alarming, particularly when those struggles directly result from the demands of the job. We know that. It's unreasonable to have these high expectations and expect people to not be mentally stressed. It's just not reasonable. And 10% of nurses right now have suicidal thoughts, right? So that's not mental health. And it's not mental illness either. So, it's like saying we're fit, right? Where our body is fit. We're either fit or we're not fit. So are we mentally healthy or are we not? Doesn't mean that we have an illness. Doesn't mean like if we're not, our body is not fit, that we have health issues. Okay. So it's not about being mentally ill. It's about being mentally healthy. And I love that approach because it's looking at what we want to be, not what we don't want to be. So let's look at some other numbers here or researches that have been done. National Institute of Health said in nursing research, mental health is often measured by the absence of mental health disorders. Is that interesting? So including post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, and burnout. And I can tell you, working with clients, whether it's in healthcare or working in organizations, the amount of anxiety that is out there right now and in our kids is mind-blowing. And people do not have the tools to help them with anxiety. And it's interesting because going back to the last comment, people are not looking for help until we're in a place where we just cannot cope anymore. And that's where we have to stop doing that, reacting when we're in a horrible place, and start being more preventative. So it's like going to the gym before we end up not being able to walk, right? This is what I'm talking about. The Statistics Canada states 95% of nurses have reported feeling burnt out. I want you to just digest that for a moment. 95% of you nurses out there, nurse managers, whatever role you're playing in nursing, are feeling burnt out. And 5% are okay. Okay? Well, I'm sorry. That's not okay. That's not okay. And the 5% who are okay are still going through things where if we don't start to address that, they're going to be, part of the 95%. Are you one of those 95% that are feeling burnt out? And it doesn't mean that you can't function. That's where mental health is really serious. But think about it. Are you in a place where you're not looking after yourself? That you're, so focused on looking after others that you're exhausted at the end of the day? That you're feeling anxious about going to work in the morning, like afraid of what your assignment will be, how many patients you will have? Are you in that place? This is where you are. Your mental health is at risk. And so, great, we're bringing awareness and we need to figure out how to work with this, right? So let me just stop this for a second. And actually, I want to bring it back a little bit. And I want to talk about, what we are paying attention to. So if I created this, what I call an iceberg concept, where what we're looking at, if you look at this iceberg, many of the things that we're looking at are on the surface. All right. So we're looking at, our stress levels. We're looking at our behaviors. We're looking at bullying. We're looking at performance. We're looking at overwhelm. Those are things that are observable as it shows in the iceberg. It's the top of the iceberg. We can see these things. And a lot of times we're being evaluated on these things, right? Especially in the workplace. Whereas the invisible is more about the emotions, the thoughts, and the beliefs we have. If we feel unworthy, if we're feeling depressed, if we're feeling, or have thoughts of suicide, if we're feeling like, we're being judged by ourselves, by others, we have a lack of self-confidence, we feel like we're failing, we've got hopelessness, we've got fear, cultural tensions even in this, right? There are cultural tensions, like, it's been looked at even in mental health that there's more available to the average white person than there is to the black person. Why is that? Like, why are we, these are all the invisible things. And we have a lot of high emotions in that hidden part of the iceberg. And our beliefs, we start to believe things like nobody cares, I don't matter, nursing is a horrible profession. Like, all these beliefs start to be manifested subconsciously. And then the observable happens, where our behaviors and our results show. So mental health, to me, is really about dealing with the invisible before it becomes observable. Sorry about the observable there, it cut off. But it's really about dealing with what we're not talking about, what emotions we're hiding because we feel guilty that we are feeling these emotions, because we have shame around it, that we feel like we're a bad person because we should watch that should, right? We should be able to be a better mother, a better parent, uh, a better nurse, a better friend, a better spouse. All those things are coming from a place of the invisible, right? And so this is what we need to address, and this is exactly what I address with my clients. We're not looking at just how are you performing at work, what are your behaviors, are you showing that you're a happy person, those kinds of things. No, that's all superficial, right? So we dig deeper. So let's really look at mental fitness now. Instead of looking at mental health, my approach is looking at mental fitness. Are you mentally fit? And how do we know if we're mentally fit? Well, in mental fitness, and this is based on research that was done by Positive Intelligence, Shahzad Shamin is the founder of Positive Intelligence, and his website is positiveintelligence.com. And I'm trained on this, where we talk about mental fitness, which is the capacity to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset. Think about that. When something happens to you, is that your reaction, that something's happening to me? Or are you responding from a place of, this is happening for me? Very different angle, right? Isn't it? And so we need to exercise these the parts of our brain that are going to nurture the positivity and are going to help us with anxiety, depression. I mean, scientifically, it's been proven, and I will talk about that on Wednesday, May 31st. I'll talk about it a lot more. Mental resilience. I've added this piece. I mean, Positive Intelligence talks about mental fitness, which is, going to the brain gym every day, which means you don't have to pack a bag. You don't have to, get in the car and drive to a gym. This can be done very easily and very quickly. And I'll talk about that on Wednesday. Mental resilience, which I've added, is really the capacity to recover from life's challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset. And what do I mean by that? We have been in a place as nurses, burnt out, and it comes from moral injury. It comes from the expectations of others to perform in a certain way. And it means that I am meeting your expectations, but I'm not living my values, which are one of humanity. Could be. We all have different values, but for mine, for example, would be humanity, treating people fairly, looking after yourself, self-care being very important, balancing work with family life, with our friends' lives. Those kinds of things are really our values. And when our healthcare system imposes things on us and has expectations of us that are inhumane, I mean, I'm really calling it inhumane, where it's putting 95% of us in risk of serious mental health issues and 5% okay. That's not acceptable, right? So that's what I mean by recuperating, by, what was the word I used? The resilience, right? The resilience is to recover from those places that we have been through. We talk about COVID the last 3 years. Yes, our mental health has certainly suffered a lot more. However, it is not only about COVID. COVID is one thing that maybe brought it more to light and made it more visible, if you like. But it's still something that's been there for years. I mean, I've been nursing since 1977, and I can tell you that in the 80s, we were feeling this already, right? This is not new. This is not news, all right? This is just now surfacing to the point where the public is now very aware of what's happening with nurses and in healthcare. Our patients are much more aware. The administrations are much more aware. Our systems need to change, right? Healthcare systems need to change, and nursing is going to change overall. But we need our nurses to, I'm not going to say fix the problem, but transform healthcare in a certain way. And in order for us to be there to help each other transform healthcare, transform nursing as it is today to something much better, we need to be mentally fit. We need to have resilience. And so there is a way to this. I just can't stress how important that is. I want to tell you a little bit about a story that speaks to this. We have in our brain, and I'll talk more about this on Wednesday the 31st, but we have our sabotaging thoughts in the left part of our brain. And we have our sage, the best person we could possibly be, showing up, right, as a positive in our right brain. And so in the gray matter, they can see how much gray matter is in your left and right brain through MRI tests. Very interesting, because it's like there's a constant battle going on in our brain. Do I listen to the left brain, the logical side, which the saboteurs love to live in the logical side because it's where they can influence us, that this is logical. This are the reasons we should be doing whatever we should be doing, right? Whereas the sage side, the right brain, is more creative, more curious, more in a positive mindset, which is a much healthier place to be. And I'll talk more about that on Wednesday. For now, let me tell you a story about a Cherokee who talks about these thoughts in our mind as being the evil wolf and the kind wolf, right? The evil and the good wolf. So here's the story. One evening, an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that's going on inside people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside us all. One is evil." And think about this in your mind where you've felt these, okay? The evil wolf is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret. Big one. Greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. And I would add shame in there too. Like, there's so many negative emotions, right? The other is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy. Big one, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. So you see, these wolves are fighting within us, right? And the grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Well, which wolf wins?" And the old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." This is so key, because the one you feed is how you are responding to your own thoughts. Okay. Remember, we looked at the behaviors and results that we have, but the thoughts and emotions and feelings are below the surface of the iceberg, and how we respond to those is what shows up and is observable, is at the upper part of the iceberg. So my work as a coach and working with clients is looking at the emotions and how you're responding to them. Are they your emotions coming from a healthy mind, or are they coming from um, a mental health side, which is being impacted by our saboteurs, by our negative thoughts? This is so important to understand. So this is where I talk about making mental health aware, month about awareness is important, but even more so the awareness of how our brain is working and why it's working that way, and how we've developed some of these thoughts as survival ways. We've developed these kinds of things, these negative thoughts to survive, but they don't serve us. Okay. And again, we'll talk more about that on Wednesday. But this is really important, because if we don't understand the root, then we're just putting a Band-Aid on the top. All right. When I think about medication for mental health issues, for anxiety, for depression, I'm not saying that they're not useful. Sometimes they're necessary, but I think we are too quick in this healthcare. Do we call it healthcare, or do we call it, health disease? Are we too quick? Let me just go there. In putting a Band-Aid on things before we try just the basics of getting our own self-command back. I have used these tools that I will present on Wednesday the 31st with my clients who are either nurses or not. I mean, I work with all sorts of clients in organizations as well. Managers, frontline, doesn't matter. These tools have been tremendously helpful and have changed my clients' life totally around. They are now more in control of their thoughts than they ever were before. Do they still struggle with anxiety if they've been, very anxious all their life? Some do, but they know how to remove it, get out of it more quickly than they ever did before. Before, they would be, locked up in their home, or they would be introverted, afraid to step out and be courageous, or step up and do something that they loved for fear of whatever, right? So, and depression. Of course, COVID has put us more into this setting of depression, of loneliness. I can't tell you how loneliness shows up. It's, we can be lonely living with somebody in a bad relationship, and bad relationships sometimes come from not having a good relationship with self, right? Before we can have a good relationship with our spouse or our partners or our families or our friends or our coworkers. There's so many things that I, as your coach, will go to the root of with you, from a place of holding you, as an incredible human being first, and also from a loving place, but pulling you gently, not pushing you, but pulling you gently to a place that is safer today than it was yesterday. And progressively, we get to a place. But there are certain exercises that we do for the brain that are called PQ reps, mental fitness exercises, that are all sensory. They're all like a form of meditation, but all sensory. You can use your hearing, you can use your taste, you can use your tactile, you can use breathing, all these different sensories that are worked on. So it's like going to the gym. You do this fitness and you do it for like 5 minutes. You don't have to sit there for an hour meditating. You do a minimum of 15 minutes per day, 3 times a day. And there has been science has shown that by doing these exercises regularly for 6 to 8 weeks, you can see an increase in the MRI. You can see the increase of gray matter in your right brain and a decrease in your left brain. It is remarkable, and more than the science and seeing the gray matter, which is important to understand. It's really noticing that even on day 2 of starting this, you start to notice that when you're triggered, you automatically have a tool to go to. And it turns your life around. I can tell you, it turned mine. And I had already done a lot of coaching work, but this was something extra that brought it to a different level. So we'll talk more about that on Wednesday. But really, here's the thing with mental health. If you think about, again, I'm going to go back to the statistics, right? If if you are one of the 95% of nurses who are struggling with burnout, which is mental health, they're all mental health issues, then um, you need to start doing something for yourself. You need to start working with somebody who's going to take you out of that place. If you're one of the 5%, this is preventative medicine. This is preventative care. This is so important. I can't stress that enough. So, I can go to statistics. The big one is 95% of nurses are burnt out. I can go to the place of 45% of nurses suffer from chronic disease like high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, you name it. There are 45% of nurses who suffer with something like this. That's high. There are 44% who describe their mental health as well-being as bad or very bad, right? But 95% of these nurses are suffering mental health issues. I could go on with statistics. 84% rate themselves as stressed and anxious. I mean, that's a given. We understand that. And I can go on, but the bottom line is only 5% of us are okay. And to be okay is not okay, because we have a potential to be a lot more than that. So what are we going to do about the 5%? What are we going to do about the 95%? We've got to stop that. We've got to start looking after ourselves. And, I understand life is about choices. And what I hear often is yes, but. Yes, but. And that's a word that I, teach my clients to take out of the vocabulary, because the part about the choices is I need to pay my bills. I need to work. I need to support my family. I've got children. I've got now elderly parents. I mean, I'm in that boat. I have my children, mine either grown up, but I've got grandchildren. And I've also got my elderly mother living with us. So there are responsibilities. I get that. But what happens when you're no longer available? Okay, it's all great. You're there, stressed, burnt out, miserable. But what happens when you're not there? And trust me, I have clients who have been there where they've had to take time off work because there was no choice. That's when it becomes apparent, and they are on mental stress leave, right? We don't want you to get to that point. And if you are at that point, you may be having help in certain ways. And there's also this mental fitness that doesn't matter where you are on that spectrum. Mental fitness will help you. So when you're no longer there mentally, physically, or emotionally, I can tell you I've been there. At one point in my life, it got so bad, I had to step back and make myself a priority. I literally told my family that I was going on a 6-month Project Lillian. I told my husband I was moving out of the bedroom. Boy, the look on his face, like, were we heading for divorce? Probably. It's probably, if I hadn't looked after myself, that's probably where I would have been today. Today, I'm in a happy marriage. I have a great spouse who was very supportive. But I would have headed down that road if I hadn't taken care of myself. I had no choice. I told my kids, if you need something, you're going to ask Dad. But I moved out into a different part of the house, and I took 6 months to work on myself. I took the time to start at the basics, which is where I start with my clients. Are you drinking your water? Are you moving? Are you, getting out of bed? Are you like the basics, and including the mental fitness, which is so important. It's part of that. I'm not asking anybody to go for an hour walk. I'm not asking anybody to, sign up at a gym. That's not what this is about. It's very gentle, but the mind is pretty powerful. So I've been there, and it was the best thing I did for my life and my family. Best thing I did for myself. So if you're one of those 95% of nurses who are burnt out, nurse managers, Trust me, nurse managers are sandwiched between upper level demanding things from them and their nurses who are demanding things from them. I get it. Being a nurse manager on your own, very, very tough, but you're not alone. And that's another piece. It's so important to build community of nurses who are heading down the right path, not to build a group of, people who are complaining about where we are and all those issues. It's so important to build a community of support. And I do that in my business. I have created a group called Join the Movement, Nurses Reclaim Life. And it's all about meeting on a weekly basis with people who are celebrating the wins, the small wins, the big wins that they have, and bringing in the struggles of how to find a win, how to get past that struggle. And so we help each other. And I guide those talks, once a week. There are 3 different calls, but I guide them. And I really suggest that you come to one of these information about Join the Movement. You can find that on my website at aliveinhealthcare.com. But let's talk a little bit about being one of these nurses right now. Great. We're brought into mental health awareness and says, you're not alone. There are support. And now what do? Many nurses, from statistics, have shown that they don't reach out for that help. They reach out to each other, their community. And so I am your community. I am a nurse. I am one of those people who've been there. I am one of those people who sometimes still is there. Okay. I still sometimes have those days or those moments, and I know how to get out of them now. And I have my support groups. I have a group of coaches that I meet with regularly. I have my own coach. I have a group of nurses I meet with regularly on a personal level. And then I have the community that I've created. It's so important to be there for each other, right? Not being part of the group that are victims of the circumstances, because that just helps us get out of good mental health. We want to create good mental health by being more positive and being more proactive. And here's my offer today. I am inviting you, if you're a nurse manager, even somebody who's not a nurse for this matter, right? Because I work with healthcare professionals throughout the system. I'm going to invite you to what I call a nurse strategy session. It's valued at $250. It's an hour of time with me, but I'm offering it for free because it's Mental Health Month. And I want to reach out to you, the one person out there who's listening to me, who gets it and who wants my support. I'm offering this to you for free, a nurse strategy session. Okay. What is it? Let's talk about you. Let's create a safe and confidential place for you, a space where you can be you, show up with everything that is real, no masks. Sometimes I call it the no bullshit chair. You come in and you've got that place to really be who you are, vulnerable. The truth comes out. This is where it is. And it's not about judgment. Like I said, I've been there. I know that place. And it's not about judgment, because if I judged myself or allowed other people to judge me, I would have stayed there. And that's not what I want for you. What will we do in this nurse strategy session? We're going to define your unique situation with clarity, because we get all these ideas in our head that we think we know where we're at. It's just, a mess, and I can't do anything until I get this straightened out, until my finances are there, or till my mother's in a home, or till, the kids are grown up and out of the house, or like we make all these excuses. But I really want to help you define what your unique situation is. And there's some truth in that, right? I'm not denying that there's truth in that, but let's get clarity on it, what it really, really is and what it means. We're going to explore your options. What are your options at this point? And sometimes your options are, I got to keep doing this for the next whatever, or I've got to stop, or whatever it is. But we'll take a look at that together. Okay. This is not me telling you that this is here's the quick remedy and this is what you've got to do. Each person is unique. Each person has a different story. And so we need to make sure that we identify your story and get clear on it and find out what your options are. And sometimes options are not even visible Remember all those things at the iceberg on the bottom? There's so many of those things in us that we don't see. So I'm here and your partner on the journey to understand that. So I'll spend some time with you, an hour, to really look at that. You're going to walk away with concrete first steps. Might be one small step. It might be 5 small steps. But you're going to walk away with already a plan of action on how to move forward with this. Or you get to choose to just continue doing what you're doing. And we know where that ends up. Okay. Statistics have shown, I've been there, tell you, you don't want to go there. But that's a conversation we can have together. And we're going to begin the journey of self-empowerment. I want you to understand where your power is. You are brilliant. As nurses, you guys are absolutely brilliant. There's so much empathy and care in you. And now we just want to, put the mirror up and have it shine on you. All right. This is an opportunity for me to hold that space for you. So I want you to go to, I'm going to put this up in the chat right now. My calendar is right there. You can book that complimentary call with me, that nurse strategy session or nurse recovery session, whatever you want to call it, $250 value that you can get for free. You want to spend an hour with me and let's work on you. Let's make this all about you so that you don't fall into the trap of poor mental health, right? Which you're probably already in, right? But we don't want to, we want to keep that needle, moving to the right direction to where there's some more positivity. All right. So I hope this helped get a little bit of clarity, not only about what mental health is and the fact that there is support and the fact that, you're not alone. I mean, those are great things to know. And not but, and what's the next step for you? The conversation is here. Whether it means that the next step is about getting therapy, which I'm not a therapist, then that's what it is. If it means getting some coaching around it and support, that's what it is. If it means calling your employee assistance program to get, some ideas on what's out there, that's what it is. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to get you started on the first steps. This is about you. It's not about me. It's not about Mental Health Month. It's about you. And I care about you, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. Trust me. I wake up in the morning. I jump out of bed. I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, ready to go. And it's because I love what I do. And because not that I love being with people who have challenges. It's about knowing that with support, there's such powerful recovery and growth and fitness and resilience. When we talk about resilience, I've seen hospitals talk about, making our nurses more resilient. For the most part, I look at that and I say, yeah, they want you more resilient for them. It's about them. It's about the patients. I want to make the resilience about you because you matter. Nurses matter. Your life matters. Your family matters. Your future matters. The future of healthcare matters, but it begins with you. Please join me in this complimentary call. It would be, I'm going to use the word crazy not to take advantage of this. And please, if you know anybody who needs this, pass them on to my calendar. Ask them to have a conversation with me. We need to help each other, and you don't need to wait till somebody's in such a bad place that they're burning out. You see somebody who's complaining, who's in this rut of negativity, ask them to have a call with me. Please, my calendar, I've made a whole bunch of openings available in the next little while so that I can be there for you. I will be heading down to a conference in Orlando, June 22nd to 24th. Nurses, it's called Power Up Nursing, sorry. So www.powerupnursing.com. I will be speaking there. If you want to meet face-to-face, that's a great place to start building community. It's a great place to connect. I'm here for you, and I can't tell you any more than that. And please, please, please share this. It's so important for you and for your colleagues and for your nurse managers, right? Nurse managers, you need it. Anybody who's not a nurse and who's looking for this as well, hey, I'm there as well for you, okay? The support is there. Our roles are different, but underneath it all, we are people. We are humans. We're human beings who need to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. And that's humanity. And that's what I live for. So good to speak to you. Have yourself an amazing day. Check in with yourself, and please, no shame, no guilt. Don't let that evil. This is the place. Do not feed the evil wolf. Feed the kind wolf. And this, by taking a step and booking with me, is feeding that kind wolf. Okay, let's go there. Let's talk. And I wish you a mentally fit month and year and rest of life. Look forward to talking to you. Take care, guys. Bye.